The changing of the seasons. For me, it's never really fall until I start posting these picks for the best in horror countdown. Not that I'm complaining, but this daily schedule of posting these videos begin as a lot of fun, but become quite the arduous task by the end of the month. So I always have mixed feelings of excitement and dread once October comes around. That's the kind of feelings the characters in these two movies I've picked today for this 27th spot in my Best in Horror countdown for 2023-2024, as it involves the horror of the changing of the seasons. It'll make more sense once we begin talking about each movie, I promise. Here's number 27 on the countdown, a devious little tale that signifies the passing of the year through a grungy and ghastly lens that reminded me less of a movie and more of an old EC comic book one might have found in your grandpa's attic as a kid. Number 27 is The Seeding. It was released on January 26th, 2024, and is streaming on Hulu from Magnet Releasing. It's directed and written by Barnaby Clay. A nature photographer named Stone, played by Scott Hayes, finds himself lost in the desert and trapped in a small valley where a young woman named Alina, played by Kate Lynn Shiel, lives a life of solitude in a small shack with very limited means. At the rim of the steep valley, Stone discovers a group of strange children who torment him as he futilely attempts to escape. The Seeding is a raw and primal man versus nature story. Yes, he is being tormented by the children taunting from above, but for the most part, this is a story about one man desperately fighting against the elements for his own survival. Stone attempts to escape over and over, first reaching out for help, second attempting to climb out on his own, then to bargaining for his freedom, and finally broken and beaten, pleading for his own life. Playing Stone excellently is Scott Hayes, who you might recognize from What Jonah Saw, where he played a dim-witted brother, or Child of God, where he played a dim-witted outcast in a small town, or Antlers, where he played a dim-witted, drug-addicted, abusive father, or maybe you might have seen him in Jurassic World Dominion, which I have yet to see, but he's probably dim-witted in that one too. Either way, it's apparent from his resume that Hayes seems to be typecast as not-so-bright characters, and though he is a bit smarter in The Seeding, he still makes some bonehead mistakes along the way. Still, this makes his character utterly relatable, making you ask yourself what you would do if you were in this horrifying situation. Hayes plays a wonderful everyman character, and he does it so well, it isn't surprising that he returns to this role over and over again. Writer-director Barnaby Clay throws an entire world of hurt at Stone relentlessly. This not only highlights the terrible truth of the situation Stone finds himself in, but also the strength Stone finds within himself. The threats are many, but the main one is the reason why all of this is happening. There is a secret held until the end, though with a title like The Seeding, it doesn't take long to parse out what it is. But what makes it so interesting, despite the fact that you might have a hint of what's going on, is how far this film goes in terms of tormenting Stone to the end of his own sanity. Though she gives a much more subtle performance, Kate Lynn Shiel is wonderfully subdued as Alina. Why she is in the pit, what is her connection to the children, and why is she so tight-lipped are all questions that are eventually answered. These questions are stretched out to a frustrating length, but this only adds to the pressure Stone is under in this inescapable situation. I haven't seen Shiel before, but looking at her IMDb, she seems like she's had a long career as a child actor. Her plain beauty highlights the mystery of the strange character she plays. These kids on the edge of the valley are truly menacing. They're the ultimate in school bullies, cowardly picking on the weak from a great distance and tearing Stone apart bit by bit. Stone could probably rip them to shreds himself if not for the valley wall between them. The film avoids calling them what they truly are. This very well could have been an updated reboot of The Hills Have Eyes, as these hill children,
I am Lothar of the Hill People,
are very much inbred monsters who don't really have an inkling of what civilization is like. Stone talks about a microcosm where something in a small area grows within a larger ecosystem as he plants food over his extended stay in the valley. This serves as a metaphor for these children who have formed a small society with its own rules and religion in the middle of the desert where it seems like very little grows. Bookending each chapter of The Seeding are title cards depicting the phases of the moon, labeled over a dish of food that seems to be rotting the longer the film goes on. This also serves as another great metaphor of Stone's psyche and physical state as his ordeal continues. Filmmaker Barnaby Clay isn't afraid to slow down the pace of this movie to highlight the beautiful aspects of the canyon the action takes place in, such as slow shots of withered vegetation, patterns on the valley wall, and maggots squirming on the plate of food. It's in these smaller moments that we get a sense of the decay going on within our main character. The Seeding is a bleak and beautiful little film. It highlights some truly grotesque things along the way, but ultimately tells a story of survival in an up-close and personal sense through Stone's arduous situation and from a distance with more broad themes of life and death. Adding to the horror is the score, which seemingly is made through primitive objects clanging together and tribal rhythms that feel like they are old as the walls of this desert pit. The Seeding is a thinking man's Hills Have Eyes. It's a film for the patient, but those who are willing to go on this trek will experience some outstanding performances by Scott Hayes and Caitlin Scheel, gorgeously dangerous sights, and tribal sounds highlighting an almost unsolvable primal challenge for the hero. I highly recommend this mesmerizing yet emotionally taxing little horror film. Today's bonus review also is about the passage of the seasons, this time involving a small town's curse. It barely missed the main countdown, and I do feel it's a movie I need to revisit as it gets a lot right about the Halloween holiday season. I might just end up reading the book to see what all of the hubbub is all about. Dark Harvest was released on October 13th, 2023, and is available on Freevee and Amazon Prime from MGM and United Artists Releasing. It's directed by David Slade and written by Michael Gilio and Norman Partridge. It's the 1950s in a small Midwestern town that holds an annual celebration of the harvest where the senior class boys of the community are refused food for a week and then sent out into the streets to take on a mysterious entity called Sawtooth Jack, who rises from the cornfield every year on Halloween. The senior who kills Sawtooth Jack wins a new car.
A new car!
And a chance to leave the secluded town and represent the town to the rest of the world. One teen, Richie, played by Casey Likes, longs to win the Halloween competition and take out Sawtooth Jack himself. But his older brother won the competition last year, and his parents, played by The Haunting of Hell House's Jeremy Davies and Elizabeth Reeser, refuse to let him participate. But Richie sneaks out and does so anyway. Sometimes when you mix the right ingredients, something magical and fun can be made. The best way to describe Dark Harvest is to name the movies it's derived from. Children of the Corn meets The Purge, and Pumpkinhead is a pretty good summary of what Dark Harvest is all about. It's not bad to take elements from other films, but if I'm being honest, these lifts are pretty direct, and I would have preferred a little more creative juices used in order to distance these elements from the original material. Sawtooth Jack looks pretty much exactly like Pumpkinhead. The masked kids roaming the streets are only allowed to do so for one night, and it occurs once a year. It's pretty much the plot of The Purge. And the town worshipping an entity in the cornfield and having a ritual performed as a rite of passage from child to adulthood is straight up Children of the Corn. I won't deny that these elements mix pretty well, but derivative? Yes. Yes, Dark Harvest certainly is. Now, just because it views like a meatloaf sandwich of rural horror films doesn't mean it's not good. In fact, director David Slade is able to blend these elements together pretty seamlessly. Slade is a fantastic director in his own right, having helmed such harrowing tales as Hard Candy and 30 Days of Night. Though the story is a bit convoluted, Slade does a decent job of doling out the film's setup, including the rules of the Halloween night ritual and the shady history of the town itself. I think it would have been a muddled mess in the hands of a lesser director. Dark Harvest was developed from a book, and the rather elaborate plot and abundance of characters makes that pretty obvious. Coming in at just about an hour and a half, I think this would have benefited at being a little bit longer to delve into some of these characters and make them more memorable. Still, there are a lot of nice touches, such as a cop that seems to always show up just in time to keep anyone from leaving the town, that amp up the weirdness quite a bit and help convey a sense that there's no way out of this town. The masks inspired from the punk band The Misfits are a nice touch as well. Slade also delivers a nice mix of CG effects and action scenes, specifically some very gnarly kills at the hands or branches of Sawtooth Jack. Sawtooth himself, while looking like a more vegetable-like Pumpkinhead, still is quite imposing, looming over the cornstalks and wandering through the town, taking out teens. While Jeremy Davies and Elizabeth Reeser do some great character work as Richie's parents and add a little gravitas to the mostly teen cast of characters, one of the biggest flaws of Dark Harvest is that the teen characters are bland and interchangeable, especially since most of them are wearing masks during the Halloween ritual in the climax. This makes it tough to distinguish one kid from another, but it does offer up a lot of fodder for the giant monster to plow through. If the script isn't difficult enough to follow, Dark Harvest has a subplot of a black girl who must deal with the racism of the 1950s small town. Unfortunately, Emery Crutchfield is subjected to this cliched and unnecessary subplot in an already thematically crowded film, and is never really given a chance to shine, but she does a decent job of doing it in the few scenes she appears in. Dark Harvest is far from perfect. In fact, it's kind of a narrative mess. Still, Slade does a decent job of wrangling it all in and keeping things moving at a brisk pace. I gotta give him some credit for maintaining some kind of sense to it all. The action and gore are rock solid, leading to some memorable scenes of carnage and violence in the climax. While it's obvious what films Dark Harvest pulls from, it incorporates the best elements from them. It's not as deep or resonant as it wants to be, but I had a lot of fun with Dark Harvest, despite its flaws. Still, Dark Harvest has enough going for it that I think it's going to be a movie that people are going to revisit over and over again come Halloween time. Once again and always, feel free to agree, disagree, or how about you play along at home and give me your own picks for your favorite horror movies. It's October, so let's talk horror. Come back tomorrow for the next level in the Best in Horror Countdown. Be sure to hit all of those pertinent bells and whistles down below, and you'll never miss a post. Happy Halloween, folks. Please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be. Stuck inside your reality, you're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're doomed. Live the life that you are meant to be. Live inside that reality. Yeah. Oh, my baby, you're doomed.